George Clooney started off as an extra, Brad Pitt, Tom Hardy.
When you're establishing yourself, your showreel is paramount.
As long as they're shown in a way that doesn't scream like it's a showreel, and it's like, okay, this could be a scene from a short film or something, they're great.
Using stunts was an opportunity that presented itself to get you in the room with the right people.
I remember going to an audition in London. I took my mum with me. She was just like, they all look like you. How are you going to get this?
What have you seen another actor do that you've gone away and thought, oh shit, that was cool?
It's you who decides what kind of man you're going to be.
Hello, my name's Nathan and welcome back to an Actors Studio podcast. We've got two special guests joining us today. I know, where are they? Where are they? So I'm joined by Tim and I'm also joined by Matt, and I'll let them do their introductions very shortly. But also behind me are a bunch of our students who are currently out here on our 5-day course. Give us a wave and a cheer, guys. So they've spent today rehearsing their scenes and they're going to be giving us a couple of questions that we're going to answer for them as part of this podcast. So first of all, I'll introduce Matt. Hello, Matt.
Hey, how are you? Nice to have you.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm good.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, busy day of rehearsing. So for the guys in the room and watching this online, just give us a bit of an introduction to you. What would you call yourself? How do you class yourself?
I'm a bit of a mixed bag. I'm an actor, I'm a writer, and I run the production company Camelot Films, which I've been running since 2013. Started in London, moved to Malta. All over now. It's become a bit of an outfit, which is good. So, yeah, but now based in Malta, live in Malta, obviously, making a lot of films and different things here. So, yeah.
Brilliant. And Tim, who are you? For the viewers at home who've maybe not seen your face on the page yet.
I founded the Actors Studio at Pimer Studios about 21 years ago now. I think, is it 21 years?
21 years.
Yeah, 21 years ago. So it's been running for 21 years. And before that, I was an acting agent, which I did for about 14 years. 14 years, I call it hard labour. I felt a little bit like a glorified travel agent, which I kind of sometimes think that's what an agent does. You're organising flights and agreements and, all the sort of things that people don't like dealing with, an agent has to do. And I've always been far more interested in the creative process and obviously working with actors. So, after 14 years of being an agent, I hung up that one and I've been working really now as a director and teaching people screen skills. So
He's lying. You were an actor before and a model.
Was I?
There's evidence somewhere.
I had Matt next to me and he knows me quite well.
He was a model with hair.
I better be careful what I say, but he better be careful what he says as well, because I know him quite well as well.
It's all going to come out in the wash. Now, we're going to come on to, because Tim's working on a project at the minute, which is actually potentially going to end up filming out here in Malta.
Matt, Camelot, which I kind of see myself as part of the team now, are going to be the producers of the film. So it's called The Longest Night. It happens all in one night, and it's a kind of mafia film, which one of our producers is Italian, and he wanted to make the film in Italy, but by all accounts and from everyone that we've spoken to, making a film, sadly, in Italy is just not logistically a good idea. They promise you all sorts of incentives, money, grants, and they dangle it in front of you, but the reality is you never see it. And I've got a few friends that have made films out there, and they're still waiting 3 or 4 years for money that they've been promised by the Italian government. So we're now going to make the film here in Italy. It's a mafia film, a bit of a love story, and a mafia film. And Matt will be producing that film with Luke over there and Alessio, my Italian producer. So yeah, really very excited. I was out here in Malta a couple of weeks ago and we were looking at locations, and in St Julian's where we are now, it's quite a commercial, but if you go out and about in Malta, there really are some beautiful cities and places to film. So yeah, really excited about it.
Yeah. So I just want to sort of spin the conversation around to sort of acting careers, because so many of our followers are, we have lots of discussions, and obviously we run lots of different workshops that help actors progress with their skills, to pick up, different techniques and things that they can bring to new jobs. But one of the big areas that we talk about is creating opportunities for yourself. And actually, this is an area where I feel that Matt can probably talk from great experience. you're not always, obviously it's a highly competitive industry. You can't just sort of finish from drama school, go out into the big wide world and expect the phone to start ringing and everyone want to book you because it's you against hundreds of others. So Matt, you ended up putting yourself in a film with Russell Crowe. So let's just sort of let's rewind the clock a little bit back to perhaps when you just started getting some acting experience, maybe doing a bit of training. What point did you get to where you thought, fuck this, I'm going to do it my way? And why did that come about?
I was always acting from a very young age in plays and different things, and stage and theatre in school. And it was always a dream. But then, as you just said, the dream and reality is very different. So when I first moved to London, I was just blown away by loads of people I was meeting, just guys coming out of RADA school and all these different, really well presented acting schools. And none of them were working. So that was the first thing. Then the second thing was they were all doing side jobs. Like, oh, I'm acting, but I'm also a teacher, or I work in a bar, or, I'm a driver, whatever it may be. So those were the two things and they were a lot older than me. So I was like 21, 22. So those are the two things I thought, right, okay, first of all, if I'm going to do this, I need to do it full time and commit and just completely, go into it. There's no side jobs. There's no other things, just, hustle through this. And also, really start making my own stuff. So start to understand how things are actually made and not wait for the phone call to ring. So, I started off, I sort of crowbarred my way into stunts. So I think that's how we first sort of came across each other. I was working at Pinewood Studios. I did loads of stunt work on loads of Hollywood productions for like 3 years. And I worked like every single day. So I didn't go out, I didn't party, I didn't do any gap year, I didn't do any traveling. I just hustled in London, worked 5-6 days a week on these Hollywood productions, which gave me amazing experience.
And out of interest, because I imagine this is a question that will come up, how did you get into doing that?
I was a background artist. I was an extra on Wrath of the Titans.
It'll be tears.
Now quiet.
Which was in Wales in 2011. And I got selected as a core team. There was like 300 of us that got put through a boot camp. I got down to the last 10, and those 10 that got core selected worked very closely with the stunt team. So there was like 300 of us that were part of the whole team. 10 got selected to work very closely with the stunt team. And it was a mixture between acting and being able to move and, do sword fighting. And it was always acting, but I used stunts to kind of, crowbar my way in different things and learn everything I knew. So then off the back of that, the stunt team said, look, if you're ever in London, we're doing Snow White and the Huntsman next. And after that, we're doing Maleficent. And after that, we're doing Edge of Tomorrow. And after that, we're doing, they had all these things lined up. And it was the same team over and over, just jumping. So I moved to London and just worked my ass off doing stunts. But the stunt side, 90% of stunts is the health and safety. So you're hardly doing anything. I wasn't like a really extreme stunt performer, like jumping from, planes or anything like that. I was doing fire burns. I was doing acting stuff. Worked very closely with like Angelina Jolie and people like that. So I just got to work with amazing people, but also I was fascinated. So you have to be fascinated with it. Most of the people were like sleeping whenever they could, or they were just like, on the phone, or, doing some other side job while they were waiting to go on set. Whereas I was like watching everything, the cameras, who does this, who does that, what's that person doing? And then when the time was right, speaking to the right people. And these were all Hollywood people. So they were all at the top of their game. So learned that. And then on the weekends, on the Saturday and Sunday that I had off, I was making short films. So all the money I was making from the stunt side, I was putting it into short films. So it's not even, aside from like anyone starting that has talent, just put it to the side, because talent is not going to, unless you're very, very lucky, talent is not going to get you there. You have to be extremely, extremely lucky. So I forced myself, I started learning how to make short films. And then when I had the freedom to do that, I was able to learn cameras and sound. And, I remember famously, I was sitting in a seat like that with Tim. I was acting and then jumping up and doing the sound while the other actor was jumping in. So, and holding a boom and a mic. So I just learned everything. I literally threw myself into it. And then as the short films went on, they progressed. I started writing. I started bringing in bigger actors. I started making better stories. And I think it took me about 15 short films before I made one that did really well and won a bunch of awards. And then from there.
Was that the Jamie Belcher?
No, then and now with Julian Glover. Yeah. It was my first experience working with Julian. So I worked with Julian Glover, who's done Star Wars and Game of Thrones and everything. If you don't know who Julian is, you Google him and you'll recognize him straight away, Indiana Jones. And then from there, you go from shorts into the business side. And okay, now feature films are, how people can actually make money and how you can put together a feature film that actually is profitable. So that then was the next stage for me.
Yeah, I think it's interesting just to reflect on there's two things really. The first one is, you mentioned you always wanted to act, but using stunts right then was an opportunity that presented itself to get you in the room with the right people. So for actors, perhaps just thinking, yeah, fine, I need to take a bit of a side road, but if I'm still heading in the right direction, it's going to give me a few assets along the way. And the other one is doing as much as you possibly can to almost make you unavoidable in a way, and it's the statistic we always talk about, if you're training more in fitness, statistically, you're just going to be stronger than somebody who's not. So the more time you're exposing yourself to doing short films, to doing the different roles on set, I think, you become a better screen actor, but also you become a bit more comfortable on the set because there's nothing around you or behind the lens that you're not really familiar with, because you're like, well, yeah, I kind of know what they're doing.
You have to be obsessed with it. I remember even when I was doing extra work, I was like, why am I doing this? And I started doing research, and like George Clooney started off as an extra, Brad Pitt, Tom Hardy famously was an extra. He used to go around to every single person on set, Tom Hardy, and be, hey, I'm Tom Hardy. Say his full name, hey, I'm Tom Hardy. And everyone would be like, who's this guy? Is this kid? Like, why has he introduced himself as his full name? People remembered him. People then, let's get that guy in because he was good. So you're going to find your own path. It's not always like the way that I've gone. And I had actor friends who just wanted to, who literally were just auditioning all the time. Yeah. And all they wanted to do was audition. And they thought what I was doing was wrong. So you've got to find your own way. But there's a couple of like core fundamentals that don't change. And that is being obsessed. That is, doing it full time. Like you said, putting in the work and crowbarring your way in or finding your way in to,
So is that a piece of advice that you would give to actors that are sort of coming into the profession, that, that they need to sort of find a vehicle for their own success?
Yeah, but I mean, on top of that, the main thing right now, if you ask me now versus 10 years ago, you have to make your own stuff. Yeah. Just no one's going to do it for you.
Because that's certainly what I would say to a lot of actors at the moment, especially in the screen world. There aren't auditions for actors every day for feature films and good quality TV work. So I think, for a lot of actors, it's a question of you finding a vehicle for your own success. It's like, right, if you have got a talent and, you've got business skills, find some like-minded people like you probably did, find a cameraman, find a sound person, write something and go out and shoot something. I mean, these days, it's very accessible to get a decent camera and just go out and shoot something. And, you could, if it's good, stick it in a festival, and then it raises your awareness. And if you're not doing that, you're just sitting at home waiting for the phone to ring and moaning about your agent. Your agent's not getting me any castings. I'm not going up for anything. Well, rather than wasting all that energy, go out there and do something, which obviously, credit to Matt. I mean, how old were you when you made Prizefighter?
33, 32, 33?
Yeah, 33. So, 33, and you went out, raised, how much, what was the budget?
17 million.
17 million pounds, and
Dollars.
Starred in a film with Ray Winston and Russell Crowe. I mean, that takes a bit of doing,
Yeah.
Credit where it's due.
Worst experience of my life.
Yeah. But why?
Of course it was, yeah. But no, just before I answer that, at one point, it hit me as well. And my sort of advice is kind of, it's unorthodox because,
But you have to be unorthodox.
You do, yeah, in a weird way. I remember going to an audition in London. I took my mum with me because she was in town, and she was just like, they all look like you. Why you? How are you going to get this? And it hit me. I was like, why am I even doing this? Why am I going to sit somewhere where I'm sitting around with like hundreds of people that look exactly like me? And it just became that's pointless. I have more chance and more opportunity going home, writing, trying to create my own stuff, or trying to create something really good that I can have control of, and also I can play the lead in. And if it doesn't, I don't have the ego now. So if it's not like, I'll do things where I don't even need to act in, it doesn't necessarily mean that. It's finding the right project and what makes sense. But when you're selfishly thinking about acting, you think, okay, what can I act in? What can I play the lead in? So I did in answer to Tim's questions, I did quite a few feature films and went through the whole process of financing and, working with people that got burnt and stung and financiers and banks and lawyers, and did the whole shebang. And then eventually I had Prizefire, which was my film that was a passion project that I'd been trying to make for 10 years. It took me 10 years to make it. It wasn't a overnight success. And I don't even, honestly, to this day, I still don't know how I got it off the ground. I mean, the project was very good, and I knew that I did, and this is not exaggerating, I probably did 300 drafts of the script. Like, I had folders and folders and folders of the script, different drafts. So it got to a point where it was so good that I knew if anyone picked it up and read it, like Ray Winston was the first person that picked it up, and he was just like, I don't care who's making this script is so good. So that was like a sort of needle that moved it. Make your material so good, and you only get one chance. You don't get another chance. Do not send anything out. Even if you think it's ready, go another 10 times after that, because it's not ready.
That ties in with the point on obsession, because I experience this, what we do very regularly. Someone will try something for 6 months and they're like, oh, it's not, I just don't get it, and they're like, I'm like, no, you don't understand. Doing a couple of hours a week is really not enough. It's not that you just need to work harder. You should be working harder naturally, because if you were obsessed with it, that would innately be happening. Tim, obviously your experience previously working as an agent, what are some of the things that when you were working as an agent, and what you know about agents now, because obviously you've still got a good relationship with many, what are the sorts of things that if people aren't going down that route and they are going down a bit more of a traditional...
Not everyone's a Matt. I mean, to go out and do what Matt did is quite extraordinary. The usual route for most actors is, you do some sort of show at the end of your course, or you have a showreel, and then you push that out to agents and you try and get an agent based on that. And 95%, or probably even more than that, of agents really, they're all roughly at the same level. There's a big pool of them, and basically, in a nutshell, they haven't got a lot of clout. They've got lots of actors on their books, but they're not really agents that are going to really open doors for you. We talk about, I think actors get obsessed with the big agents, the Independent, the Uniteds, the really big agents that represent all the stars. But the big agents, they want to represent the big stars because that's who they make the most amount of money from. So what you need to do is, as you develop as an actor, is have a value and a marketability. So for actors, and it makes me laugh when I say to them, so do you like your picture, for instance, your acting picture? And they go, yeah, it's all right. And what about your showreel? Yeah, it's all right, it's okay. And you just think, well, if I'm an agent, I don't want to represent someone who's got an all right photo and an all right showreel, because basically that is what they're selling you on. So as an agent, what I'm looking for is marketability. What value has this? If I represent Matt, for instance, what's Matt got that is going to help me sell him? I mean, he's an easy sell because he's obviously starred in big feature films and he's known throughout the world in one way or another. But when you're a new actor to the business, you've got to think, right, I need to give my agent all the right things in order to progress my career. And it's kind of a bit like having apps on a phone. When you buy a phone, you buy a phone because it's got the right apps on it. And it's the same for an actor. You buy into an actor because they've got the right apps. They've got a great showreel. They've got a good picture. They've got a CV with the right apps. So they're very good at stage combat. They're very good at doing accents. Oh, they've worked with the following people. So you're looking at it, and I'm comparing it to apps, but as an agent, you're always looking to think, right, this person has got a lot of the right apps on their CV that makes them bankable. It's going to make me easy to get them into the room. Now, if you haven't got a very good showreel, and I'm trying to promote you or any of the actors that we've got here today, if your showreel's not that great, then you're just falling into a pool of people where there's hundreds of people. So you need something that's going to be really kind of high level. You need a really good picture, not a picture that's just okay. And you need to work to get all the right apps on your CV so you're marketable and you're saleable to an agent. And that's what an agent wants. You know, they don't want somebody coming to... When I was an agent and someone turned up and the picture wasn't that great and they didn't... Oh, well, I haven't got a showreel. And, you know, you're looking at the CV and you're thinking, you're going to be so hard for me to get in the door. I mean, if I haven't even got a showreel for you, so I can't even show a client that you can act. I mean, it's different when you're established because, you know, when you've done big feature films, then it's easy for people to see your work. But when you're establishing yourself, your showreel is paramount because other than that, how else do they see you act? So it's really, really important that showreel is, you know, really spot on. And when someone watches it, they're like, wow, okay. You know, they're not going to book a job looking at your showreel, but that's going to get you in the door, you know? So for me, when I was an agent, it was very much about thinking, right, I want to represent this actor because I think I can sell them and they're giving me the right things to sell them.
And it's funny you say about some actors not being happy with their picture or their showreel. We've got a health check at the minute. If you've not checked it out, you can go on the Actors Studio website and we've got a little free health check you can run. And the statistics of actors who on that health check have said they're not happy with their showreel and they're not happy with their headshots and they're not happy with their CV design.
I mean, that's what's selling them.
Yeah. And then you think, okay, so you've got three of your biggest marketing assets in that world of marketing yourself as an actor and you're not happy with all three of them. And then you're sort of wondering...
I mean, it's the same with us, with Camelot, when we're trying to raise finance for a feature film. You do a pitch deck. And that pitch deck has got to be absolutely shit hot, otherwise someone's not going to give you millions of pounds. So, you know, you do draft after draft after draft, and I think that's what you guys were doing, you know, today. You know, making a pitch deck look so good that someone's going to go, yeah, we're going to give you millions of pounds for it. And it's the same, you know, obviously it's not quite the same financially, but it's the same with an actor. If you haven't got the right things, then, you know, you're not going to get seen. You're not going to get offered work.
No. And I would add to that perhaps in terms of picking up skills and the sorts of skills that you want to go out and learn, don't follow what someone else has done because it looks good or that's kind of what you hope to do. You've got to stick true to who you are. I always use the analogy it's you as the role, it's you as that character, and what you've experienced in life and where you've been and things you've done are all what you put into a character that you're playing. So in terms of skills that you're going to go and get skills that are hopefully going to work towards the sorts of roles that you want to play, and you're going to be
hero. Go and learn to be really good at martial arts. Do long sword and short swords, and learn to ride a horse, and you know, do all the things obvious. You know, if you go, oh, I'd really want to be in Game of Thrones. Can you horse ride? Can you sword fight? No. Yeah. Well, do yourself a favour. Go out and learn the skills that's going to get you the job.
Yeah.
You know,
no, exactly.
So,
yeah. So Matt, versus when you were 21, first sort of starting out in the working on plays and things like that, to where you are now, what are some of the misconceptions you had about the film industry that you now can see otherwise? From any perspective, it could be the acting side, it could be producing side.
It's all full of shit. It's all bullshit. It's a good question. I think one of my biggest assets has always been getting things done. And I became very good at knowing when something is ready or on the roll, and then flying forward with it. I remember doing a podcast before with a producer, and you know, someone asked him like, "How do you know when it's ready or to take the risk?" And it's there's no answer. You just if you've been through enough of things that haven't happened, and enough that has happened, you know when things are ready, and you know when things are ready to move. My investor says it all the time about this TV show we just did. Like, how did you know the money was going to land or this and that? I've been through it so many times where it didn't land and it didn't work, that you know the ones that are going to work. So I think misconception. I mean, producing is a lot of work, and it's in a nutshell, you are the most important person, but you also are treated like you're the last to get paid. You do the most amount of work. You deal with the most amount of problems. The biggest, you're responsible for everyone. You know, if the money doesn't land, they don't go to the actors or the director, it goes to the producer, the production company. So a lot of responsibility. And I would say, you know, my advice for anyone getting into it, just get into it very, very carefully and tread like really smart, because I know friends of mine that have lost their houses. I know they've ended up in divorces because they put their, you know, homes on the line and different things. So, you know, you can really get absorbed into something that doesn't work. And I've been around, I was here like 3-4 years ago in Malta with two friends of mine who were trying to put together a film, and they met me and said, it's happening Thursday. And I looked at like their term sheets and all this stuff. I said, this is not real. This person is not going to invest, and this is not, and it fell apart and they had to leave. So you've got to really, it's the only time I would say go through the ropes of like doing short films or things that's like manageable to put together, because there's two sides to producing. There's the creative side of the bringing people together, and that's probably the most important thing. It sounds so easy, but the hardest thing in the world is bringing people together. Like, you know, forget the money with Russell Crowe and forget this. Like, the hardest thing in the world was getting him to Malta during
in a private jet.
in a private jet during that 10-day window of the year. That was the hardest thing. So it's very hard to get people together. And then, you know, like I said, the misconception is there's a creative side, and there is creative producers that just solely focus on the creative, and then there's the finance side and the documentation and the legals and the bond company. Like, you know, I'd be very surprised if anyone here knows what a bond company is. You know, it's a very specific thing most films have to get. So there's a lot of aspects to that. And then the final thing I'll say on the producing is there's two different types of producing. There's the independent producers who are on the ground and they know how to, you know, shave a couple $100,000 off a budget that's 1.5 million. And then there's studio producers that haven't even been involved that world because they've had assistants and they've always had the money. I remember putting together something a few years ago with Peter Dinklage, and I was working with the producer of the first Spider-Man. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like, she's done all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. She had no idea how to make an independent film. Completely useless. And she was honest with it. She said, look, I used to have, you know, 4 or 5 assistants at Sony and this and that, and had no idea how to put together an independent film. So know who you're working with, know your skill set, know what's the difference between being a creative producer and raising the finance and the money. Probably don't do it alone. Probably find someone close to you, or, you know, some
and
that
you get
trust.
on with as well. I think that's really
that you
important,
get on with.
when you work on a film. You know, it's at least a year of your life, and that's the least. Normally it's 2-3 years. I mean, Matt and I have been working on a film now, which just seems to have gone on and on forever, isn't it? So, you know, we've been 2.5 years.
Let's flip to some sort of on-set experiences, because I always think that's interesting for the audience. The people here is talking about some sort of real-life examples where you've been on set working with other actors, and what it is that they've bought that's added value or not worked so well. So, Tim, let's start off with you from the view of as a director. What are, when you're working on, let's skip past the fact that the film's cast, you've got your actors, they're secured to the project, etc. When you're in that rehearsal period to then on the day of shooting, what do you think are some of the key attributes of a successful screen actor where you trust them as the director? You know, when you sat there behind the monitor and you think, do you know what, I can trust them to make this work. What do you think those attributes look like?
Obviously, if the casting director's done their job correctly, you know, you've got the actor in front of you, and you know, you've been part of that creative decision. So hopefully, the actor that you finally got, you know, is going to deliver. But it's experience, and I think when you're playing certainly large roles in feature films, you need experience. You know, you have a good team around you. You need to make sure you've got a supportive environment, which is really important, and you need an actor that you know is going to come to the set and be ready. You know, that in film you don't hardly have any rehearsal period. You know, you turn up and you shoot. So if you haven't made decisions, which is one of the things that we were doing today with our rehearsals, you know, if you're turning up on a professional set and you've got a crew of, you know, 100, 150, 200 people there, and you haven't made decisions, you're in big trouble. Because with the bigger actors that, you know, that Matt and I work with now, and Matt being one of those actors as well. Big actors, they won't expect to do it many takes. They're only going to do 2-3 takes. And then they're off. They'll either get their body double to come in and do it, or unless you've got a very good reason for them to do that again, they're going back to their Winnebago. They're going to go, right, well, just let me know when you need me next. So they're going to walk out on set, they're going to deliver, and then they're going to go. So your answer to the question in terms of what attributes do I look, I need an actor that can walk on set and deliver. And I know 100% they're going to give me the performance that I need in that film.
And I think with what comes with that is, and I've mentioned it to the class today, some of them is, you can't expect to be able to do that if you've not done just your basic preparation. What is it? What are you doing when you're sat in the makeup chair? Are you turning up, with your body and your voice and everything, and your lines and everything warmed up?
Well, this is what we worked on a lot yesterday. We were doing some really emotional stuff with the actors yesterday, and I said it's not the sort of thing that you can test on a film set. You've got to make sure you can do it before you arrive on set. It's not something that you just think, oh well, we'll just turn up on the day and hope for the best that the scene goes well. You've got to know that you can deliver. You've got to know that you can do it again. You've got to be able to reset if makeup's coming on and going right. You've got to go back to the beginning. We need to redo your mascara, redo your makeup because you've got tears down your eyes because we need to go again. And you've got to be able to turn it on and off like a light switch. And that's what good actors, they have that attribute that they can do that. They can do it on, we've worked with some, we've been working with Peter Stormare, haven't we? On Awakening, and Kevin Spacey. They're like machines. They literally just flick a light switch and they're there.
Before I take it to the room, I'm going to reframe a similar question for you, Matt. Obviously, probably from the point of view as an actor playing against other actors, and then as a producer sitting down and watching the edit and making choices on things to just bin and leave in the editing, on the floor. What are some of those attributes that you've seen that you think makes for a successful actor / performance?
It's a good question. The thing is with me, because I did so many shorts and different things, I very quickly from the beginning separated the roles. So it was like, right, okay, I'm now performing as an actor and then I'm watching as a producer, and I'm the first person to cut all my shit. Like literally, I won't keep it in just because I'm acting. I've been around friends that can't do that because they just, I need more lines, or I need to be, they're too precious. So from the very beginning, I separated the 3 roles. The writing was always before. Once the writing was done and the director was in, passed on to the directing. That's it. I've done my part now. You can come to me and ask me any questions. You can, I can give you the backstory or whatever. But once the writing's done, it's over to the director. And then the producing is you produce up until shoot. When I shoot, I try to stop producing and I just go into acting mode. And then once acting's finished, I go back into producing. It's hard to sort of cross over. And some people do that really well. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck got their own production company and they produce all their own stuff and they still get in front of camera and act. So it's about distinguishing those, putting the ego at the door. Don't.
I think it depends a lot on what character you're playing as well, because if you're playing some psychological killer and you're dealing with a lot. And
even like my next sort of passion project. I learned so much from Prizefight, because Prizefight was just a cluster fuck of like, I've got to act, and I was crying and then producing and then back to writing and solving this and solving that. It was just, it was all over the place. I don't even know how I made it through, but I'm being very sort of, distinctive on what I do in the next thing and putting it at the door. So you really got to just know exactly when to put certain things down, and just try not to cross it over, because if you cross it over, it's like doing 3 jobs.
Yeah, I'm going to add to it. It could have been early on in your career, or even with some of the more recent projects. What have you seen another actor do that you've gone away and thought, oh shit, that was cool? You don't have to mention names, but you can.
Look, I remember I played a Michael Caine double, and I got to work with him for like 2 months. It was only like a 30-second scene, but because I was embodying him, I read all his books, I watched all his. So first of all, go to all the research. None of this stuff in 2000s, go way back. Go to Humphrey Bogart, go to James Cagney, go to James Dean. Watch how they watch how Humphrey Bogart flicks a switch on a match, lights it, and talks like simultaneously afterwards. Like those things are just, you can't find that anymore. That's like embedded into a different time period that doesn't exist. So first of all, do all your research and find those things and steal like hell. Like take what the best did and embody it into you. So that's the first thing. And then the thing with Michael Caine, I remember he was like 88 or 89 at the time, I think. And he did his scene and I had to go in and mimic the exact same scene. So he would sit down, he would hold this gun, he would talk, his eye line was perfectly matched to so literally you're the guy there. And I had to go on and do that. I did 22 takes of it because I'm trying to copy Michael Caine. And he was 89. And he did this thing with this gun that flicked it. And I tried to do it so many times. I don't mind admitting this. I tried to do it so many times. I was thinking, how is he doing this? This is like, he's a lot stronger than me and I'm 28, but he can't be stronger than me because he's shaking and he's like he was walking off in like a crutch, right? And then he was getting on and he was just straight. Like everything was just perfect. And he was flicking it in a way that was taking away the weight of the gun. And it took me a couple of times. And I remember him after like 6 or 7 takes come and tap me on the back and he was like, keep going. I can see what you're trying to do, kid. Just keep going. And he was just fun with it, But the moment he zoned down, it was just eyes not moving. The gun dropped. Then his vision became more clearer. And then he got up and left. So loads of and that's just like one sort of example, but loads of like tips and tricks. Like, Angelina Jolie was incredible to watch. She wasn't like a mind-blowing method actor. She knew every single step of where everyone was and the lighting and camera. She knew that light was there and she knew that light was going to move there without even moving her face. And she knew that was going to be here. She was a technician to the acting like field. So there's so many different ways. And then, some people just go on and act and perform. There's a famous case of, I think it's Raging Bull. If you go and watch like the behind the scenes of Raging Bull, when they cast the main female, she turned up on set the first day. She was an unknown actress, but she blew them away in the auditions. And it was a big group of people like this. And she goes, okay, we're ready. And Martin Scorsese said, yeah, we're ready to go. He's like, yeah, when are all the people leaving? She said, no, this is the crew. She said, they're all staying. She was like, what? So she didn't even know who the crew were. So, there's an element of just leaving everything at the door and just performing. And there's an element of being able to be aware of everything and then mimicking your movement based on where the DOP's moving, where the director's moving, where the other actors are moving. So I think you got to just be so comfortable with the person and take anything, like steal anything you can from whoever. Obviously, hopefully the best, but that's
and learn your own advantages so that in some ways you're not having to work as harder than you need to. Sure. Yeah, like you say about Angelina, if she's knowing all the technical stuff, for her, she probably used that massively to her advantage. It's like, well, actually, I didn't really need to do loads there, but because I knew that light was going to be there and the camera was going to be there, everyone went, wow, that was amazing.
Even just like, everyone's always got energy. Even like, I remember asking Kevin Spacey about House of Cards because he's so, and he's very powerful. Yeah. And if you watch very carefully, you'll see his hand in many scenes doing this. Right. And just like this, but down. And when I asked him about it, he's like, I'm releasing all my anxious energy into that, but you can't see it. Yeah. So it's all going there. So if you find a moment that gets you comfortable and release it in other ways, whether it's like a tapping a leg or moving your toes on the inside, things that people can't see, you can then close everything else off.
Well, look, we've got some actors in the room, so we're going to ask them a few questions now. I'm going to turn and have a look because it feels weird to just ignore you all. Has anyone got a question for us? If you have, stick a hand up. Go on, Michael.
Question?
Please.
It's nice to meet you. Hi. Congratulations on all your success. Is there something that you know now that you would have liked to have given your younger self advice on as an actor?
I don't know if you're going to like it, but I would not even go anywhere near auditions or rely on anyone at all.
It's an interesting question, especially from Michael, because he's coming from a similar background from you. He's very much a stunt performer.
It's not necessarily it can be both ways, because I know actors that have auditioned like crazy and they've landed loads of jobs. I would have not have wasted any time auditioning at all. Nothing. Zero. The time it takes you to go, to get on a train, to go to London, to learn your lines, to spend 3 days before and cancel this and cancel that. You might as well write a short film and shoot it on the weekend. Like, there's no, and I know that's probably one way the worst advice you want to hear.
I think that's a really good piece
of
advice.
I just would not even waste any moment on auditioning. From my point, I just made a decision that I kind of worked it out mathematically, like odds. Like, okay, I'm going to do 3-4 auditions a week. I'm going to get on a train. It's going to cost me this amount of money. I've got to spend 2 days before learning lines. So I can't do this. I can't do that. And then, okay, I'm going to go up at what? Maybe they're seeing, even if I'm doing well, they're seeing 100 people that maybe are in the room or online. Then you go, okay, think about the people that are ahead of me in their career. So they get one up. And then for me, I had 2 auditions for 2 big jobs. One was a video game, huge job. And I didn't get it because at the time, one of the stunt performers who was already in the location, was like Bulgaria or somewhere, they cut a deal with the production. So even if you're so good and you're at the level and you're in the audition and you nail it, there's something that could go wrong on the financing, or someone else could come in and do it a better job. And when you start producing, you realize what's real and what's not. So like, I remember probably one of the last auditions I did was about 3 years ago, and they wanted me to audition for something, and I knew the production and the people behind, and it just wasn't real. So I was like, why am I auditioning for this? Yeah. It's not going to happen. And it never happened. Even to this day, it never happened. So it's a bit harsh, but...
Do you think it's worth investing in actors' workshops?
Be very careful what you say here, Matt.
You know what? I think...
it depends which workshops.
I think, look, the thing about missing auditions and working and with a showreel, you need a showreel, right? I don't know what scenes you guys have been doing, but how those scenes are constructed and how they're shown, as long as they're shown in a way, and I trust Tim and the guys, so as long as they're shown in a way that doesn't scream like it's a showreel and it's like, okay, this could be a scene from a short film or something, they're great. And those things put you in the room and all that process, like Tim said earlier, you want to be able to walk. It's like training. Whenever you train for something, the fight night or the day that you got to perform is not really, it's all the bit beforehand. So if you're going to get a job and you're going to get an amazing film or an experience and you're walking into that and you're prepared, all that stuff, all that preparation is from before, right? So, I mean, yeah, if you do the right thing with the right scene and think this what's right for you, there's no point in you playing a criminal if you can't play a criminal, or if you don't look like a criminal, or you can't dress like a criminal. There's no point in doing it. Play to your strengths. Most of the actors that you know who are super successful, and 95 to 98% of them play themselves. Tom Cruise, Angelina Jolie, everyone. There's only like a few, like you throw Tom Hardy in or Daniel Day-Lewis or like a handful of 3 or 4 others that can step out their character and play something else. Everyone else plays themselves.
That's my massive argument. That's why I'm always saying you as the role. And when people come along and say, oh, I really want to do this scene from that film that, freaking Heath Ledger did. And it's like, yeah, but you're not him. But the reason that role was so great is because it was him as that character. And I'd also agree with that on the showreel front. I mean, obviously, given what we do, we see a lot of showreels, but I'm kind of... You're looking for something that puts the person into context of a genuine production, not just the acting bare bones against a white wall monologue. The showreel really showcases the entire package in lots of different varying scenarios.
It sells the product.
Yeah. Don't isolate yourself, because I spent a lot of time on my own and thinking and this and that. Like, you guys are all together now. Who's having a conversation here about whoever's got along with each other really well? Who's having a conversation of whether you go back, let's shoot something? You should be. You should be going back, and in 2 weeks' time, a couple of you should be getting together and doing a one-on-one piece, or shooting a short film on a weekend and finding out how to get some cameras and different things like that. And people are still doing that now. Peter Stormare and Stephen Burkhoff want to do a one-on-one scene like this, one-on-one film. So,
because if you don't, someone else will.
It's a very small industry, but it's very competitive. Like, it's extremely competitive.
And probably the most competitive is for actors. I mean, there are more actors probably than there are. There aren't thousands and thousands of crew members, but there are tens of thousands of actors, and not much work.
How do you navigate your mental health in this industry? Because you do so much. Producing, writing, entrepreneurs, and acting?
That's a really, really good question. That only people like Matt and I, and probably Luke, really, because you're under so much pressure when you're a producer, a lead producer on a feature film. You have no idea. It is like 24/7, 7 days a week.
It's not for everyone, if I'm honest. And again, probably the second bit of advice that not everyone's going to want to hear. Don't avoid anything that you can have like serious responsibilities. Don't get married. Don't have children. Like, I'm being serious, because if you want to do this full time, commit to it, because it's going to take over your life. And, I didn't party in my 20s. I didn't go and do gap years or holidays with my friends or nothing. I lost like 2 best friends because I just never saw them, and I was only down the road. So there's an element of like just committing to it, and just be aware of the ups and downs. So you're going to have massive highs, then you're going to have massive lows, and they can have a massive high on the Monday when something's been released, and then on Tuesday you're like, okay, what's next?
Yeah, because I was asking, it's mainly also because of people. Yeah. There's so much ego, and there's so much personality, and you're on set constantly with all that pressure. How do you deal with things like rejection and animosity without you losing your identity, basically?
Again, I don't want to sound sort of too harsh. That's the easy bit to lose, because when you get to a point where you're rejected, like there was so many times where for many years I was like, why didn't I get this job? I was amazing. I went in, I nailed it. Or sometimes I'd go in and I'd be terrible and I'd get a recall. I'd be like, why are they recalling me back? I was shit. So the best way to do it, and Bryan Cranston said this, the guy from Breaking Bad, you just gotta put it, like, you go in, you audition, forget about it. Don't even think about it. It's gone, done. You haven't got the job. If you get it, it's a bonus. So you've got to leave everything at the door. You've got to, and the only way to go through that is to go through the pain of it, of kind of like wanting to hear, and like same with Justin, we're a friend of ours. He wants to know why they didn't like it, or why no one cares. No one cares, and no one's going to give you an answer on why they did or didn't like you for something. And then I started realizing that, oh shit, I was quite good in that audition, but the reason I didn't get it was because they didn't have the budget, or the film didn't get financed. So you're hurting yourself for no reason. You're not even the problem. You're not the issue why you didn't get something. Someone else probably stepped in. Someone maybe didn't like the look of you in a room. Someone did like the look of you. The director, the amount of times directors have been replaced. Like, there's like hundreds of things that will go wrong that are not anything to do with how good you are. So there's no point in worrying about it. There's no point. There's literally no point even thinking about it. Done, move on. Done, move on. And that's why I keep saying about creating your own stuff, because when you do create your own stuff, then that matters, because it's your own thing. So that side of the coin is easy. Do it, move on. When you're on set, perform, show up, do your thing, and bugger off. You don't need to, the ones that keep working are the ones that are easy and fun to work with. And then, like I said, just dive into it, give it everything, and start creating your own stuff.
Learn from yesterday, but focus on tomorrow, or something like that. Yeah. Poignant.
Something like that.
Thank you very much for watching. Thanks for the guys in the back for listening. To learn more about what Matt is up to, you can go and head over to camelot-films.co.uk. We're going to stick that link down below. And to learn more about what we're up to, whether we're here in Malta or off to Geneva, all at actorsstudio.co.uk. Thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
And we'll see you very soon. Ciao, ciao.